US presidential elections are taking place on 3rd November. This is an important event not only for the United States domestically, but also internationally. Joining me to discuss the implications of the election and the run-up to the polls is Barry Wood, who is a journalist and political analyst based in Washington, D.C. Barry, welcome. Could you give us your assessment of the two contenders, Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and what are their respective chances on 3rd November?
Oh, it'll be a miracle if Donald Trump wins. And that's really just for one reason. He is not given high marks for his handling of the coronavirus. And that goes back to February. I think had it not been for the coronavirus and his zigzagging from the beginning, he would be on his way to victory. But I think everything has changed. I try to keep in touch with my relatives in Michigan. I certainly talk a lot to California. I mean, look, it's no one is going to be confident in their prediction, and the polls are not going to be given high credence, mainly because of what happened 4 years ago. No one expected Donald Trump to win, and of course he did. So it's risky to say what I've just said. But I'm confident that given the fact that in Florida, in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, in Michigan, now even Arizona, the president is under pressure and the local polls all say that he's losing. So I think it's going to be a miracle if Trump wins.
So Barry, foreign policy is a critical area of influence for any president. How do you expect each candidate's foreign policy positions to differ in the run-up to the election on 3rd November?
Well, certainly foreign policy is not number one. Domestic policy is what people are really paying attention to. However, Donald Trump is a protectionist. He's anti-China. That's emerged in the last 2 years. So Joe Biden, if he becomes the president-elect, will reverse that. He would join the trade deals that the president, Trump, vetoed. So that means the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Not at once, but he would open the door to more negotiations and ultimately going back in. He will try to repair relations with Europe, which have been very strained. So that would be, I think, a big change in American policy should Joe Biden win the election. Now, if you talk about Africa, Africa is very low on anyone's priority, whether it's Trump or Biden. There is the AGOA trade relationship, which is the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act. That goes until 2025. So that's not even a factor. I do think that if President Biden would want to repair relations with Africa, Donald Trump, as most viewers know, has said some very disparaging things about Africa. So he would repair that. There would probably be more talk about Africa, but I don't think there would be any substantive change. There is concern, however, about China's rising influence all over Africa. Now, militarily, if you go to Djibouti, this is the one place in the world where you have a Chinese, American, European, mostly French and German, Japanese, all military presence in this naval facility at Djibouti. It's a kind of cockpit. But who's the economic winner of those powers in Africa? Clearly, China. So that could become a real issue, particularly now since, say, Zambia wants to default on its debt. They owe a lot to China. China is opaque in terms of revealing just exactly how its debt is structured. So those are areas that could become important, but it would be grossly misleading to say that Africa is high on either candidate's priority.
So Barry, in terms of the relationship between the United States and China, there was obviously a key part of the Trump ticket and the campaign back in 2016. How do you think that that dynamic is going to play out? Is that still looming large in voters' minds as a key electoral issue?
Yes, it is. And that's the one foreign policy area, David, that probably does resonate with voters. Donald Trump initially, for 2 years, really wanted good relations with President Xi Jinping. He saw that as the way to a deal over North Korea. And he was probably right on that. The coronavirus has changed everything. Clearly, Donald Trump blames China for the pandemic that has now engulfed your country and mine, and certainly Europe, the whole world. What has happened is that before the coronavirus, the American-Chinese economic relationship had deteriorated, mainly because President Trump was very impatient with the slow pace of the Chinese doing anything to offset this massive trade deficit that the United States has with China. So US-China relations are bad, economic relationships are bad. If Joe Biden wins, clearly he wants to repair that, but he has to be cautious because most of the American public sides with Donald Trump on the get tough with China policy. So there won't be a rapid improvement in US-China relations if Biden wins. But again, because there's so much skepticism in the United States public about the way China is comporting itself around the world, that's why I think that Chinese investment and trade in Africa is going to be something that will be talked about, just as it will be talked about in terms of what the Chinese are doing in Southern Europe. They now have the port of Piraeus in Greece. They're building a fast track rail system all the way from Greece up through North Macedonia, Serbia to Budapest, and to join the European network. There's going to be a lot of talk about China as not being a country that plays fair. How that plays out in terms of policy is very difficult to say.
So Barry, in terms of international affairs, the United States has often played an outsized role in global institutions such as the United Nations, the WTO, NATO, etc. And given the protectionist instincts of the president, as you alluded to earlier, and some of his criticism of these global institutions, do you see in the event of a Biden presidency a tilt backwards to that, or do you think that the landscape has shifted quite a lot?
Well, look, a President Biden is going to rejoin the Paris environmental program. There's no doubt about it. Whether he does it instantly or whether he does it slowly, he will rejoin the Paris Accord. He will also probably try to mend fences with the World Trade Organization and the World Health Organization. But again, on both of those latter points, there is not much popular support for either organization in the United States, so he may move slowly. His first priority will be to repair relations with Germany. Germany and the United States have been at loggerheads, mainly because Angela Merkel sees Donald Trump as a bull in a china shop. And she's been so skeptical of his moves away from embracing the NATO alliance. But again, look at the domestic policy here in the States, or the domestic perception. I hear people all the time saying, well, at least Donald Trump has made these crafty Europeans pay more for their own protection, whether it's Germany, the Scandinavian countries, or even the new members from the former communist part of Eastern Europe. That policy is popular. So Biden will try to repair relations. And now, shifting to the Pacific, he's probably going to continue the Trump policy of bringing India closer into a relationship with the other East Asian countries like Japan, South Korea, and China. But this China problem is not going to go away. And that kind of foreign policy discussion will be muted and not much different from Donald Trump's.
All right, Barry. Well, certainly a lot to consider ahead of the elections on 3rd November, both in terms of domestic US politics and also globally. That's it from me, David Ansara. Thank you very much, Barry, for sharing your thoughts with us. Until next time, take care.